I thought that was bad. And I unplugged it, and all of a sudden, my hand's wet. Like, where's that coming from? So, really odd. So that was my fun this week.
That's it. Stream is live. All right. We will, Mike, for the next couple of minutes, it's my job to distribute the stream into lots of places where broadcasters, engineers hang out. And our distribution model is you can't avoid us. So I'm waiting for it to.
Yeah, I know, right?
Been trying to avoid us for years.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for it to pop up in my feed. Come on. You know, you've never been truly drunk until you've had to use a bar stool as a walker to get home.
Words to live by.
That's right.
All right. Looks like I'm going to have to go find it over here at Guys from Queens. We're just away from airtime. Let's see. We'll like and share that. There it is. To my feed. Boom. And then we'll go back over to my feed. We'll share this over to the TWiRT page. Come on, where are you? There we go. So many things to click on just to make this happen. Mm-hmm. Oh, come on. And every time, something's different. Mm-hmm.
Spoken like a true disc jockey.
every time.
Last time.
60% of the time, it works every time.
That's right.
I need to turn this off.
It has real bits of Panther, so you know it's good.
So,
that's right.
So I click share to share this over to the TWiRT page, and Facebook pops up a warning. Something isn't working right. Please try again later. All right. Fine.
My favorite. Unknown error.
Oh.
Yeah, right.
Well, now all of a sudden it decides to work. So let's see if it went. Yeah, it's over. Nope, it didn't go over there. Oh, come on, really? So it said it posted it, and I go to the page where it's supposed to be posted, and it's not posted. All right. I just really want to put this on the TWiRT page because I promoted it on the TWiRT page. Maybe that's my problem. I made a promise. And now I can't fulfill it. Let's try it one more time. We've been live for 3 minutes here. Let's try sharing it again. Share it.
You know, it's only 4:00.
Right. Oh, now it's working. Okay, awesome. We'll click share. Go. Thinking about it. Yeah, leave the page. And finally, we'll share this over to the Broadcasting Club. That's got to let people do a good job of getting people in there. So we'll share this over to a group. And here's where it's easy to tag you guys. Chris Tarr. Chris, you've been tagged. And I don't know if Mike Kernen is in there. Yes, he is. Michael Kernen. Would that be you?
I hope so.
Hope so.
There's
Otherwise, some other
Michael.
Michael.
Of me, but I think I got it. I got the Facebook name before everybody else did. I
couldn't tell by it.
I don't check Facebook.
Well, the profile pic is reduced to a 1/4 inch in size, even on my big monitor. So it's either you or another Mike Kernen. He'll be happy. Hey, I wasn't even on your show. Okay, good. It's now 2.5 minutes after the hour. My distribution model has failed me again. Here we go. Let's see. I guess I need to go to the tab that's got the show. There we go. Episode 699. You know what that means. Next one's 700. We'll have a good time while we're at the last of the 600s. Alrighty. We're ready to start the show. We have Suncast at the helm, at the controls, and we're ready to start. We'll start this episode in 3, 2. Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech. I'm Kirk Harnack, your host. So delighted to be here. It's a Thursday afternoon, 4 o'clock here in the Central Time Zone, maybe 5 o'clock where you are. Maybe it's earlier. Maybe you're on the other side of the world. Wherever you are, I'm delighted that you have joined us, whether you join us live or on the replay or as a podcast download. We appreciate you very much. And hey, if you like the show, do us a little favor and hit, that like and subscribe buttons. You know that routine. That really helps us out and gets the word out, and tell your friends about This Week in Radio Tech. Chris Tarr, my co-host, and I, everywhere we go, we meet people who thank us for the show, tell us they watch the show. We remind them that they have other choices in entertainment. And they say, oh, no, it's okay. We like you anyway. And speaking of Chris Tarr, he's here today. Woohoo! Chris Tarr, welcome in. Good to see you, buddy.
Thank you. I was busy building an ark. We've had so much rain around here that I almost started to float away. So that's what I've been doing. So yeah, beautiful day. Weather's getting good. It's been raining for well over a week now, to the point where like the parts of my yard, when they mowed, they had to kind of go around it because they would get their lawnmower stuck in the mud. So, yeah, no, I'm kind of glad it's been sunny now for 2 days. So we'll see how long that lasts.
About a week ago, we had some big downpours and some flood advisories and things like that. But there's a lot of flood advisories. But for every day now, for like 5 days, it's rained a little bit overnight. So I get up and I look at the deck in the morning and it's wet. But during the day, we've basically had no rain. So it hadn't been bad. We got just enough to keep all the trees and the plants really, really, really happy.
I see Suncast was saying there was a tornado in Michigan yesterday. We actually had a couple here. Not too long ago. So, in all this entire weather system. So I would love for it to calm down a little bit because, having those big lightning rods in the air, I really, I don't want to deal with that. I already had one. I actually had to send one of my guys up because it turns out one of the stations we bought, the racks weren't grounded. And we started blowing out equipment on the rack, and you could actually pull it out and see the char marks where the rack screws go. So ended up running copper strap from each rack outside and got that taken care of. But the lightning finds a way in one way or another.
Oh, it sure does. It sure does. Hey, well, speaking of lightning, some people call him Lightning. Lightning Kernen. He's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Kernen, the chief engineer at Crawford Broadcasting in Detroit. Mike, hey, welcome in. It's good to see you, buddy.
Thanks, Kirk. I don't think anybody's ever called me Lightning Kernen before, but I like it.
I like it too. I like it too.
It actually might have been a good nickname for me because last week I was in a tuning house when the spark gap started sparking, and I grabbed my crap and went inside. I told my assistant Steve, I said, well, yeah, maybe it's not a great place for us to be right now.
Have you been now, Mike? You take care of some AMs right now, and Chris, I know you do too. You ever been around an AM tower with the insulated, broken up guy wires, and you've been out there like before a thunderstorm, and you hear all the snap, crackle, and pop going on, even though you don't see any lightning, you hear the snap, crackle, and pop going on. Maybe because the drain choke at the bottom of the tower is not doing its job. But you ever been around a tower doing that?
Oh, absolutely. Where I worked for 30 plus years, we had 1,000-foot FM that was detuned, and we had all the insulated guy wires. And yeah, they would crackle like crazy, and you'd be walking through the parking lot where you'd have to walk underneath the guy wires. And it's a very, very strange feeling, especially when you know what that is. And I keep thinking about all the people that worked with me. It worked in the studio building there that, they didn't know what that was. And they'd ask me, what is that weird crackling noise? And I said, oh, it's just lightning getting ready to happen. Don't worry about it.
Gosh. Well, I'm thinking back to the first time I was at a station where I heard that. I was out in the parking lot, and some other engineer was hanging out with me, and he expressed concern. He said, we need to go inside. That could be, that's probably a thunderstorm coming, and we might be in danger out here for the lightning. I don't know why I didn't know any better. I mean, I was a young, foolish engineer, still foolish, but I was even more foolish then. And I didn't think anything of it, except it was cool. He said, no, let's go inside. So we went inside.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that tower got hit, multitude of times, but, you would know when a storm was coming well before the storm even got into the area, just because of that crackling noise, which, I think was probably fair warning to get out of the parking lot. But
yeah.
Nothing ever happened.
I'm glad that we have yet another tool at our disposal. So Mike Kernen is here, and in just a couple of minutes, Mike's going to be beginning on a really interesting story. And I was delighted to talk to Mike a couple days ago to find out more about what we're going to tell you today about. We've titled the show tentatively "My 40 kilowatt transmitter shuffle," and there's a good reason for that title. It's pretty remarkable and clever what Mike figured out to do and got his crew to do to make a big change. That's coming up. Chris Tarr will have some comments to add too about his own harrowing experiences with moving transmitters. Hey, our show is brought to you in part by Nautel, and something really cool at Nautel, and that is this HD digital radio test drive. So the test drive is an offering intended to break down these barriers that keep a lot of broadcasters from trying HD radio. HD radio transmission does have the potential to create a much better presence on your car dashboard and help stations stay competitive in a field of alternative media choices, things that are already designed into your dashboard. Well, it's based on Nautel's software-based air chain technology. HD Radio Test Drive allows broadcasters to try HD radio transmission in their market for up to 6 months to unlock listeners and content and new revenue potential without needing to install and purchase upwards of $40,000 or $50,000 of HD gear. So an easy, minimal cost option is to turn on HD radio transmission so you as a broadcaster can test new revenue opportunities, experiment with new formats, maybe new languages, or maybe even short-term pop-up event stations. So you can see the impact on listener retention and engagement when album art or graphics are displayed on the auto dashboard. That way we can keep up with, some of those other services that are out there. You can counter competing alternate media, or maybe even you can counter competing over-the-air media, pop yourself up a format that, tries to take a bite out of your competitor. So here's what you need to get started. You can lease or purchase a Nautel GV2, or you can upgrade your GV transmitter to a GV2. You need an Xperi main station or equivalent license and a signed trial agreement with Nautel. And you need content for 1 to 4 channels delivered via Livewire or AES 67. So you could just do one HD1, or you could do up to 4 HD channels. So check it out. Contact your Nautel sales representative or go to the Nautel website and read about it there, and contact Nautel that way if you don't know your sales representative. The website, nautel.com. Check it out at nautel.com. Thanks, Nautel, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. Chris Tarr is along today, and so is Mike Kernen. Mike, I kind of gave a little preview of what's to come, and no better place to start than the beginning. You guys made the decision to buy a new transmitter, but you had to do some work before you could put it in. Why don't you take us from the beginning?
Well, I'd be happy to. When I first started with Crawford about 4 years ago, I had been here before, invited over by probably Jeff Welton or maybe the chief engineer that was here before me, to see the NV40 that was installed here, which was, I think it would have to have been the first high power solid state transmitter in the market. And in fact, the NV40 that we have and still have, and that we just demoted to standby service, is serial number H103, which makes it the third transmitter that they built, the third NV that they built. And the other two were prototypes. So this was the first one to land in customers' hands. And Chris Alexander, who's a longtime DOE of engineering for Crawford, made the decision to buy this. And when he decided to buy it, they had already committed to sending this thing to Las Vegas for the NAB show. And, it, I'm sure, was the star of the show, or at least the star of the booth for Nautel at NAB. And they went ahead and shipped it out there. And, it spent the week out there, and they shipped it back here. And I think they shipped it all the way back to either Nova Scotia or to Bangor, Maine. And then they shipped it here to Detroit. So this thing got a really nice tour of the country before it landed here in our transmitter room. And for whatever reason, I don't remember, this was quite a while ago, I think it's been here for 20 years now, that I got invited over here to take a look at it. And I remember being just absolutely gobsmacked by what a great transmitter it was and how well it was laid out, and the architecture that it contains, and how different it was. Of course, being an FM chief engineer, I was used to tube type FM amplifiers and all of their limitations, and this thing was just completely different. Instead of having one giant blower, I think it has 109 fans in it, and 16 power amplifiers. And it's just, an incredible sea change from what the analog transmitter that I'd been used to, or the tube type transmitter and the analog FM broadcasting that we did. And I remember being kind of, a little bit jealous. Hey, I love this thing. I really like having, the user interface was, new and fantastic, and it had all kinds of information, and it had built-in oscilloscope and spectrum analyzer, etc. Everything was touchscreen. So eventually the time came where Greater Media was ready to purchase new transmitters. And of course, at that time, the GV had already come out. So, we talked about it, and I was asked what my preference was. And of course, I said, I want one of these. And so we put GV30 in at WCSX. And it was, I think, 1 year before we put in a GV30N, which they had come out with the smaller chassis for the N, because it didn't take all 16 power amps in the 30. And we bought one of those a year after. And those two units I was just incredibly impressed by. And I loved owning them and using them. And, I couldn't say enough great things about the Nautel transmitter. And I was lucky enough and fortunate enough that when we purchased those, Greater Media, which is a lot of people probably know, but maybe some don't, Greater Media doesn't exist anymore. But Greater Media had a way of doing things. And they sent me to Nova Scotia, and I went to the Nautel factory, and I spent, I don't remember what it was, 3 or 4 days there watching the final touches being put on the transmitter, going through final test, and making sure everything was as I wanted it before it left the factory. And also going through quite a bit of training. They had a training course there. And it just worked out very, very well that I was able to learn so much about it. And they did some things with us where, we'd go through not only the theory of operation and the architecture and, all of the what's and what's where, type stuff, but they also caused different failures and had the people that were attending the class um, try to figure out what had happened and how to rectify the problem.
Hey, Mike. I wonder
Mm-hmm.
if you might detour for just a second on the story, because this idea of factory training is, to me, intriguing. And I've never had the pleasure of working at a station that sent me to factory training. A lot of folks go to the Harris factory training, when now Gates Air factory training.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned the Nautel. I'm interested in the value of that. I've taken care of a transmitter, installed a new one, and just had to deal with it as it came up. But it seems like if I knew all about this transmitter before I put it in, I am likely over some years to save my employer plenty of money on troubleshooting it, because I'll be able to get right to the problem more quickly, because I've gone through the problem. It's almost like simulator training for an airline pilot. Can you speak to the value of training and why employers ought to take care of that for a new transmitter purchase?
Well, sure. I mean, especially with the Nautel being so much different than the tube type transmitters that most engineers are taking out of service. For some of us, this is the first solid state transmitter that we'd had an opportunity to work on, or to even see. A lot of engineers, unfortunately, don't attend NAB. And they don't get a chance to walk around the show floor and see these things and talk to the salespeople about them. So this is the first time that you really got a chance to go do a deep dive on a product that's very dissimilar. Of course, it does the same thing for the most part, but it even does a lot more, because we did not have the linear amplifiers. So, we were running dual input antennas with separate amplifiers for HD radio. So this was the first chance that I got to have somebody sit down and explain to me, where everything was in the signal chain and in the actual box itself. Where are you going to find the exciter? Where is the single board computer? What does this jack do? What does that jack do? How do you make sure that you understand a failover situation if somebody doesn't go through and explain to you that you can run this thing with 3 or 4 PAs not working, or sometimes even more. It was a nice opportunity to sit with a whiteboard with a factory engineer, with somebody who understands this thing inside out, upside down, and ask them questions, some things that would pop into my mind that they hadn't covered yet. And they're sitting right there. They're standing right there. You can ask them. You can say, hey, what happens to all of these super expensive FET amplifiers if lightning strikes this thing? Am I going to be looking at 16 dead power amplifiers down at the end of my transmission line? And they can explain to you how they've dealt with these things and mitigated these particular failure modes. And it gave me an opportunity to get a personal relationship with some of these people, like Nelson and Jeff. A lot of people know Jeff Welton. And there's some people that I got to meet that aren't at Nautel anymore. But these folks, and they're super down-to-earth people, and they understand their customer, and they're tech people, so they get all the inside jokes. So I thought it was very valuable. In fact, when we bought I did this when we bought the first GV30. Took me a while to start calling it a GV40 when I got here, but when we bought the first GV30, that's when I went through the training. And then the next year, I went back to Halifax and did the delivery and acceptance on the next GV30, which was the N. And, I found that having a year of experience with the thing, I had built up some more questions and, was able to point at things on the unit that, either I hadn't really thought about before and wanted to know more about, or things that, I thought it even gave me a chance to give them some feedback, some things that I thought might be able to be improved. So it was a valuable experience. And, you don't get that kind of hands-on experience over a Zoom call. Or, I was there in the factory sitting on a stool while they were running it through all of their tests and running through the audio tests with the audio analyzer and all of that stuff. I really, not only did I enjoy it, but I took away a feeling that I could go back to my studio and know exactly what I had and exactly how to service it and to maintain it and to respond to it in the case of a failure.
Mike, I'm going to pause you right there. We're going to take a quick break. Now, when we come back, we're going to start looking at pictures. Mike's been kind enough to provide us with photos of the whole situation. Although, Mike, you're going to need to. I didn't see any before photos before the big deed was done, so you might have to set that up. But we're going to we're going to understand from Mike what the problem was when they went to move this transmitter in, and how they decided to solve it, because it was a really interesting thing to solve. So that's coming up. I'm Kirk Harnack. Chris Tarr is along. Mike Kernen from Detroit, Crawford Broadcasting Detroit, is our guest. And our show is brought to you in part by Broadcast Bionics. And that's where you'll find some amazing software that'll make your radio station run better and help give you fantastic, on air, the things you need to say on the air for your talent, and give you tools to post that on social media to get even more presence and interactivity with your audience. The Bionic Studio is one way to get that done. We'll be right back after this.
Welcome to the Bionic Studio. The Bionic Studio brings all audience interaction to the fingertips of a production team in radio, TV, and podcast. Our workflow-led system is working 24/7 around the world for small broadcasters and national and international networks. Our telephony module, Bionic Talk Show, allows cost-effective centralization, remote operation, scalability, and resilience across an entire network of stations, but at the same time is used in single-studio self-op environments. Social media curation and activity is now considered a broadcast-critical part of programming. Bionic Social means the studio isn't overwhelmed with a wall of interaction from an ever-growing number of social platforms. We combine SMS, MMS, and email together with a speech-to-text service for listeners using smart speakers. We enable studio teams to curate, filter, and display all platforms in one place, and post text, images, and video content to multiple platforms in one operation. Effortless collection of video content with Bionic Director has helped position some of the world's most successful stations as leaders in viral content, generating appointments to listen and free marketing via retweets and shares. Bionic Contest enables end-to-end tracking of on-air competitions, live reads, and prizes. These could be on-air contests, automated SMS entry, or online. Anywhere, and Skype TX for Radio brings high-quality audio and video contribution into the studio with ease. No need for dedicated PCs to run different applications. Everything is controlled within the Bionic Studio UI, and incoming connections are visible to users along with all other platforms. Our codec integration enables connection, algorithm configuration, and directory to a wide range of IP and ISDN codecs. The Bionic Studio, a unique suite of products designed to enable your talent to work smarter.
Broadcast Bionics, innovators of so many things for broadcasters, and in this case, Bionic Studio, talk show, social, director, and contesting, plus so much more. Check it out at bionics.co.uk. Thanks a lot, Broadcast Bionics, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. And don't forget about that virtual rack. We talk about that on some weeks, and that is a really cool item. I'm telling you, the broadcast industry is going there with virtualized broadcast infrastructure. It's Kirk Harnack along with our guest Mike Kernen, and Chris Tarr is here. Chris has been actually standing by and's got something to talk about for just a minute before we return to our story with Mike Kernen. Chris?
Well, you're talking about the factory education and the old Harris school. I went to 2 years of the Harris training school, and I happened to find, turns out that a guy that I work with locally was in the same class as I was. I don't remember meeting him, but he remembered me. He sent me a picture of our class, and this would have been 2001, probably about the same time I met you. So I don't know if Suncast has that ready. There you go. Look at that goatee.
Oh, my goodness.
So I will say that was a fantastic experience to be able to do that. Not only did we learned transmitter theory from some really smart guys. The guy in the upper left in the glasses, his name was Doc, and he had been with Harris for years and years and years. But we also at the time got to go through and get our hands on all of their different types of transmitters, AM, FM, TV, and actually work on them and learn more about their functions and that sort of thing. It was almost like a semester course crammed into about a week. And I would love to see more companies do stuff like this, because although it was actually geared towards Harris products, because obviously it's Harris, it was agnostic in terms of the theory and everything. And we had calculators, and we sat down and we did all the math, and we learned about how that all that stuff works and the science behind it. And it was pretty intense, but a lot of fun and a great education. So I was just kind of thinking about that when you guys were talking about Harris and Nautel, about my days way back when I had the awesome goatee. I mean, that thing was just spectacular.
Well, thanks for the picture and the Wayback Machine. What year was that again?
I believe that was 2001.
Okay. All right. 23 years ago. Holy cow.
Which would have been, I think, when we met, or close.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Cause we met on 9/11. I mean, on the 9/11.
We did. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. I
so
was
it's been 23
in the Chicago
years.
Area.
Dang.
Can you believe that? Gee, wow. And you've never been over to my house for supper. What's wrong with you, Chris?
I know, and I was in the area, and I just was busy.
Can we come now?
Yeah, I was going to say, I can get on the road, drive on down.
And hey, Carmen will make it worth your while. Girl used to be a chef in Spain. I mean,
I know she will. I've seen some of that stuff. Yeah,
she's professional.
Fantastic.
Well, hey, Mike, let's jump into the story here. You bought a transmitter, you got the tape measure out, and what'd you find out?
Well, it wasn't a matter of even having to measure it, because I'd been in the transmitter room enough to know that there was no way that I was going to get that old Continental 816R4C out of there without either reducing it to pieces or taking everything out. So here's this. I'll set this up for the viewers here. The room is long and narrow. There is enough room to stand in front of the NV40, but you cannot completely open the doors. If you have to do something like take out module 1, 2, or 3, or 14, 15, and 16, you got to remove the doors, because there is that little space in front of the transmitter, and behind it isn't much better. So it's basically a cracker box, the type of room that this is. And the NV40 had come into the room last, and next to it is a rack full of support gear, as one would expect. And then just beyond that in the row is the Continental 816. So the 816 had been in there since, I think, 1993. And, it had been loaded into the room first with the NV40, coming after it. The only thing that you could do to get this transmitter out of there is to take the NV40 out, to take the rack of equipment out, to take the 816 out, put in whatever you got new, in this case our GV40, put the rack back, put the NV40 back. To do that was going to require many hours of work and obviously off-air time. We don't have an aux site. So we would have to take our main transmitter down to get the standby transmitter out. So, like I told Kirk yesterday or the day before, it was like trying to change the water at the bottom of a bucket. The only thing that you could really do is to reduce the thing down to parts and take it out, and then put the GV40 somewhere else. Well, I didn't like that idea. I want my transmitters in a transmitter room. It's where they belong. The heating and cooling systems are set up for it. It's I don't want the transmitter in my TOC. It's noisy, it's big, it's in the way. I don't have the electric for it. And the TOC was probably the only other place that I could conceivably put it. We talked about buying a prefab building and putting that out in the yard. And we could have done that. And that probably would have been pretty nice, except the problem there is cost. Prefab and new HVAC and all the electrical connections and rerouting the conduits and rerouting all of the RF piping. So, that was kind of not a great plan. So I was in there scratching my head thinking, geez, this is really going to stink having to, move this GV in here by moving the NV out. And by the way, you move the transmitters out, you immediately have to make a turn before you can go out of the building. So It's really, really tight. And I was just kind of walking around in there and I'm looking at this wall and I'm like, boy, it sure would be nice if that wall wasn't there. And then I thought, maybe it shouldn't be there. And I thought, I might be onto something. So I walked out of the transmitter room. I made a U-turn, went outside, and there's nothing out there but a downspout on that side of the wall. And I said, that's it. That's exactly what we're doing. We're going to go through that wall. And so I approached Chris Alexander. I kind of thought it through a little bit. And I approached Chris Alexander and I said, I want to put another door in the building. And, I would have thought his response to that would have been like, yeah, no. But he said, find out what it would take to do it. So I got a contractor over here, and he was a door, commercial door contractor, and he knew people that could deal with the concrete block. And he says, yeah, we can put a door there. And I said, I also want a sidewalk here too, because I don't want to try to roll the transmitter through the dirt. And he goes, I got guys that can do all this stuff. So I ordered the door and showed him where to put it. And I ordered an extra wide door because I've been here before. And, we went ahead and put it in, and they poured about 8 feet of concrete for me to go between the building and the existing sidewalk. And there, the problem was solved. I didn't have to go off the air. I didn't have to relocate a 2,000-pound transmitter just to get another 2,000-pound transmitter in the room. I didn't have to relocate a rack of equipment that's been there for probably 15 or 20 years, with all of the unknowns that go along with that. What does this wire do? What does that wire do?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it was the perfect solution. The move day, it couldn't have gone smoother. And I think I got some pictures that show us moving the transmitter.
Yeah, it's time. Indeed. Let's take a look at this. There's the solution right there.
There's the door, and you can see, don't pay any mind to the crap that fell out of the gutter on the ground, but you can see the Continental 816 in there. And that transmitter, I moved out. My assistant and I moved that out ourselves, and you'll see how we did it in one of the next pictures.
By the way, before we move, if we can go back to that picture, I noticed one thing about this door. You don't have a normal handle on it. It's not meant for daily human ingress and egress. It's meant to be open when you're going to move a transmitter in or out or something big like that. Right? Isn't that a bar?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a stupid reason why I did that. So the company that put the door in, they said, well, we're not going to warranty the door unless you put a closer on it. He said, we find most of the damage on these doors comes from the wind blowing them open. And I said, I understand that, but I'm going to take responsibility for it. I don't want a closer. And because I don't want the door, I don't need a door closer on there, for one thing. And number two, I don't want anything in the way, hanging down. So we were talking about that, and then he hits me with the price to put a lock set in. And I said, I don't need a mortise lock on a door I'm going to open 3 times a year. I don't need a $700 lock set on there. And he says, well, it's kind of the way the doors are made and all that. I said, well, can you make the door without that? And he said, yeah. He said, how are you going to keep it closed? I said, just weld a slide bolt on it. He goes, okay,
there you
we'll
go.
do that.
Yep. Okay. Cool. I wanted to point that out because, this is not your normal door to go in and out. This is to get the next transmitter in and out. Or if you got something big to bring in and out of there, you can do that.
Yeah, or I go in and out there when I'm going to the HVAC unit or something. But yeah, no, normal people aren't going to use that. And it's not meant as a path of egress from the room.
It wasn't there for, 30 years before. That doesn't need to be there now, except for moving the transmitter in and out, or like you said, a quicker path to the HVAC. All right, let's. I didn't mean to slow things down there. Suncast, what's next on the pictures?
Okay, so this is when the GV arrived. It came in this excellent crate that Nautel puts together, and the whole unit. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but the whole thing, all totaled, weighs, I think, right around 1,850 pounds. And, when you think about having to move something that heavy, I think I said in the article that I wrote about this, that the transmitter without the crate weighed 40 pounds more than a 1951 Volkswagen Beetle. Okay. So if you can imagine 4 or 5 people trying to horse something that big around without any wheels, it is a formidable task. In fact, Jeff Welton said he likes to tease the people that buy or that build these things, that they're now no longer selling them by power output, but they're selling them by weight, because that thing is heavy. And you can see right where the mover's got his strap, they put some non-skid plate pads on the bottom of the pallet. And trying to get this thing to scoot off of that pallet onto something we could use to move it was an experience not to be forgotten. So I had bought, when I worked at Greater Media, I had bought these furniture moving dollies. And I don't know, maybe it's obvious, maybe everybody that moves transmitters uses these, but The guys at the moving company, which were fantastic guys, by the way, they were super, but they did not bring these, and they didn't have them with them. And I said, do you have some jacks that we can use to move this? Said, well, I'm just going to move it on the pallet jack. Well, no. First of all, you can't move it it's too top heavy. You're going to drop it. And you cannot move that thing down our narrow sidewalk, which you can see behind the transmitter there, on a pallet jack. It's going to be too wide. It's going to end up hitting the fence. The sidewalk is uneven. So I'm glad I prepared and got these jacks. I borrowed them from the person who is taking my place over at, it's now Beasley, but it was Greater Media, who was my assistant for 20 some years. And I said, I need to borrow those. And she's, yeah, great, come and get them. But without those things, I don't know how we would have still been out there trying to figure this out, I guess. They thought they were going to move it on some furniture dollies, those little square ones with the 4 wheels. They would have crushed those things like a bug.
Hey, I just realized we got more to go, but I'm going to take a quick break here, and Chris Tarr is going to help me out. We're talking to Mike Kernen. He's telling us the story of getting this Nautel transmitter not only into the building, but the way he had to prep the building, the way he had to get the old Continental transmitter out that had been there since, I think you said 83 or so. It had been there a long time. Anyway, I'm Kirk Harnack along with Chris Tarr, and our show is brought to you in part by Angry Audio. And Chris, we've got something really fancy today. We've got a beautiful video that's going to play while you talk, and a little bit of music underneath you while you talk about this rave console. So let's see if we can orchestrate all this and make it happen all at once. Suncast, whenever you're ready,
all right.
Pull the trigger. Looking for here we go. Here we go.
Oh, there's the angry face. Angry audio face, and the rave. The rave console. Look at that thing. It is beautiful. It is so nice. And of course, it's designed very well too. You've got all of the the amplifiers and the design from Catfish that gives you nice, clean audio without any grunge or anything like that. It's got an onboard power supply. Again, very noise limited, so you don't hear it. It's got some other features that you're not going to find anywhere else. Things like on-air indicator lights, dedicated mix-minus buses, stereo output buses, Q on every input. You've got the ability to connect pro or consumer-level devices to it. It's got faders for monitor and headphone volume, a built-in high-power headphone amplifier, monitor selector for TalkBack. That's something you don't see in a console this size. Flexible monitoring sections, and of course, it is gorgeous. It's machined aluminum with laser-etched markings. So this is not stuff that's going to rub off. It's going to stay there, and it's going to look good. And it's great for podcasting. It's great for production, or even for on the air. Nowadays, you don't need as many channels as you used to. You can get something like this and put it in your on-air studio, and it looks beautiful. And of course, it uses the Studio Hub connectors, which means you can get it set up in a snap. So check it out. It is the Rave console. You can get it through Angry Audio and through your favorite broadcast distributor. Problems go away when you get angry.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Thanks, Angry Audio, for the new Rave consoles now shipping. Hey, our show also brought to you by Max Connect, and they do a lot of things at Max Connect Group these days. One of them, though, is we've been talking about it. It's this U.192. Software-based FM audio processors are coming up in popularity. People are trying these things out, and different companies have them. There's a couple that run in the Windows environment. One is the Omnia SST, and there's some from Stereo Tool. There is Stereo Tool, and there's also Breakaway, but all of them can use this U.192 MPX USB sound card. Now, what's the deal here? Why do you need this? Why can't I use a regular sound card? Well, if you want to make multiplex, that is the FM baseband, the FM MPX signal that's going to go into your FM exciter or into your composite STL to carry that composite signal to the transmitter side, you need a proper output that creates the right MPX signal. And what I mean by that is MPX is a little bit of a fragile signal. It needs to be ruler flat frequency response, from almost 0 hertz up to up around 60 kilohertz. And then it also needs to be properly phase aligned. You can't have any group delay or phase delay in any parts of the audio spectrum. It needs to be really well designed. And to this date, there hasn't been one on the market that's designed to do that. There's a couple of sound cards that would kind of work if you're willing to put up with some compromises. But the U.192 is designed to do exactly this. Plus, it has digital AES inputs and outputs on Studio Hub RJ45 connectors. You can bring your audio in that way and take it back out as 192 kilohertz MPX output audio. So that is so cool, and it's analog MPX. So this will go into almost any FM exciter on the planet, any composite STL on the planet. It's got a built-in power supply. There's no wall wart. It's a powder-coated steel enclosure. It feels heavy. It is heavy. It is well designed for 24/7 broadcast operation. It's actually designed and built by Angry Audio, even though it is marketed and sold by the Max Connect group. So check it out. You can go to the website at Max Connect. I know it's spelled funny. Max with 2 X's and Connect with a K. MaxConnect.com. There's always a link in the show notes if you forget. And you can check this box out. That'll give you, take an inexpensive computer that'll run these FM processors. Buy the FM processor that goes there. They're typically under $1,000 or so. And then add to that this U192, and you have got a complete FM processor that puts out a beautiful analog stereo audio. Thanks a lot, Max Connect, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. And by the way, we got a big congratulations to Josh Bone. If you know Josh Bone, you probably know what I'm congratulating him for. I don't know if I'm at liberty to say. Chris, do you know why I'm congratulating Josh?
I do, and actually it's on Facebook, so I think you can say. I think
You're
it's
right.
public now.
He's a new daddy.
Woo!
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. My wife and I got to go to his wedding roughly a year ago or so, and now they got a bouncing baby boy. So they got a house full of kids there. Josh Bone, I got a lot of respect for this guy. He does a great job, and a brilliant fella, and a good father too. So there you go. All right. Hey, it's This Week in Radio Tech. Mike Kernen from Detroit, Crawford Broadcasting, is our guest. Chris Tarr is along too. Hey, Mike, I guess we need to buzz through some extra pictures here if we could kind of quickly and kind of, give us an idea of, we've only got about 10 or 12 minutes of content left. Got one more spot break.
All right. Well,
this tip of the week. So let's go. Suncast, what you got for us, dude? Ooh.
Okay, well, you can see, obviously, that's the unit ready to move down the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm. Let's see what's next. Oh,
and this is
the tight fit.
This is a great shot of how tight this transmitter room is. You can see John on the ladder there wiring up some. This is actually after the GV was in place, but it gives you a great idea how narrow this transmitter room is.
Wow. All right.
And yeah, there's the front, and you can see again just how small this room is. I think one of the things that I should point out is on the right to my back there was the NV, and this is looking in through the existing door. Yeah, that right at my back is the rack and the NV there.
Okay.
And then this is a look through the existing door. You can see the electrician there, and that's the NV that you see there at the end.
Right, and it's in the way of taking other stuff out. If back when that was the only door.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
And this is my favorite new toy, the new HD Multicast Plus that came along with it. And it's sitting on top of the old exporter trying to teach it a lesson, or importer, I should say.
Yeah. Nice.
So there's the new GV40. It doesn't have a ladder inside. That's just a reflection. But the room is so small that I couldn't even get a wider picture of it from that angle.
Wow. It's tight.
Yeah, and there it is, replacing the picture you saw earlier.
So it sits exactly. Yeah, it sits where the Continental used to sit. Same place.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And you can also see now I had them add a hood over it, so that all of the exhaust air goes right up into the return air duct for the HVAC. And at the same time, we put in a new HVAC because, why torture ourselves and not torture ourselves proper?
Okay. Let's see what's next.
There's the new HVAC right there. Nice. You see how huge that is.
Yeah.
And of course, the new door.
Nice.
These new HVAC units are so much larger than the old ones.
Why is that?
They replaced. Because of the SEER requirements for energy efficiency. They have to have much, much larger condenser. And, well, this one's a package unit, so the evaporator's probably bigger, too.
Okay. And of course, your genset.
And that's our new Generac sitting there, too. We just put that in this spring. And,
okay. Suncast, is that the last one? Yeah, that's it. Well, good. Well, we got through the pictures with a better idea. We got a minute to talk about this, and then Chris has a story too. It boggles my mind. Why would the original people who designed the transmitter room, why would they design it so narrow front to back? I can see not wanting to spend more money than you have to on the square footage, and they didn't know, that 30 years down the road or 40 years down the road, just what they'd be doing for backup transmitters and all that. But I always wondered about, why so small when a good sized engineer barely has room to, squeeze by the front of the back of the transmitter. What do you think about that?
Yeah, trust me, I can relate to that. I'm a good sized engineer. The only thing I can think of is, and Chris Alexander could probably speak to it because he has so much more history at this company than I do, but the only thing I could think of is that there was some limitation. That transmitter room is pretty close to the property line, and it may have actually been, placed right near the easement. And the other side of it is a tower. So they may have just needed to squeeze it in there the way they did. Although we did end up building our TOC along the other side of it. So I don't know, but, I'm sure everybody that's ever walked in there has wished that it was bigger.
Yeah, sure.
It also used. I'm sorry, there's a little delay. It also used to be a standalone building, and as Crawford expanded the works here in Detroit, they encompassed it into the main building.
Okay, gotcha.
Or incorporated it, I should say.
Yeah. I hear you, Mike. What we normally, excuse me for not telling you until now. In a few minutes, we're going to have our final spot break, and we're going to look for a tip of the week. So if you can be cogitating on some intelligence to leave our viewers and listeners, that would be great. Chris Tarr, you've got some transmitter moving experiences here in just your recent past that has to do with a forklift and what, a second floor? What's that story about?
Well, there's actually a couple. I was kind of chuckling at the door because I had the same problem and I did the same solution. I had a building that was very small, and I had two transmitters in there, and the one away from the front door had to come out, and that would have required taking the transmitter and the rack out. So I put in a door and then took the other transmitter out of the new door. So there is that. I had
this is great. I'm glad you confirmed that. Mike, you're not crazy. You're not crazy. There's two engineers.
No, I'm
two brilliant guys.
Either that or I'm crazy. We're both crazy. That could be too.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true.
Yeah. So another story I have is Hales Corners, our Milwaukee building when I worked with Intercom. We had a new transmitter going in, and we could not get it up the stairs because this was a pretty big transmitter, and it was an old Art Deco building, but it had stairs that went up the front, and there was just no way we were going to get that thing up the stairs. But what it did have, and I don't know why it was designed like this. It had loading dock doors on the second floor. You opened them up, and then there was just dropped at the parking lot. It was huge. So I'm guessing that's how they got everything in and out of there. So we rented a forklift and had to lift the transmitter up to the second floor, and then scoot it in through these loading dock doors to get it in there, and then wheel it to wherever we needed to go. So that was fun. I didn't drive the forklift to get the transmitter up, but I did get to scoot around the parking lot with it, which was a lot of fun. And then the last one, we had an issue with getting the transmitter out. This building, they basically tore out part of the building to get this is an old AEL transmitter. So in the late 60s, they tore out a hole to bring the transmitter in and then filled it up. The problem is that this has a really tight turn in it. So there was no way the AEL was coming out in one piece. There was just no way we're going to be able to do it. So a couple of us got together with Sawzalls and just totally destroyed the thing and brought it out in little pieces. And I'll tell you what, I hated that transmitter. So it was a lot of fun getting to take the Sawzall to that sucker and tearing it up, because it was just, it was like therapy. We're just like, you son of a. So that's how we got rid of that one.
Did you stomp
so
on
I'm looking
office
forward.
style?
Oh yeah, exactly. I was grabbing the baseball bat and nailing it. So I'm looking forward to my next stop. Is I'm driving to Texas to pick up a couple of transmitters, and we'll see how that goes with getting those into their respective buildings, because it'll be I should be able to go straight in, but they'll be tight. And you're right about movers. I have a group of movers, and actually here's a tip for you. I hired union stagehands to move my transmitters. Those guys can move anything. So that's generally who I get to move my transmitters.
Union stagehands, they're used to moving huge speaker arrays and grand pianos without damage.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And when they moved my one transmitter into that building where I took out the AEL, I obviously couldn't chop up the new transmitter and bring it in. So that one actually had to be moved in, and they showed up, and sometime I'll show you pictures. I have a whole bunch of pictures of these guys getting it in there. And they managed to get it in and around the corner, 90-degree corner, and then in, and get it all set up and not a scratch on it. And they basically used their muscles and pipe to get it all around. So they were great. And I've used them a couple of times for projects with moving transmitters in, and they're very affordable. They're insured, and they get it done like right away. And that's because, like you said, they're used to moving around equipment.
Wow. Hey, Mike Kernen is our guest. Chris Tarr is along here. We've got our tip of the week is coming up, and I've asked Mike to come up with something really smart, really intelligent, something we can grab hold of and maybe write down and take home and use the next time we're moving a transmitter. And of course, Chris is welcome to participate too. He usually has a tip of the week as well. But right now we're going to hear from Broadcasters General Store. I just talked to Hugh at Broadcasters General Store today to get a price on something. And I really appreciate them being here. I'll tell you their phone number in a minute right after this. But if you need something from Vox Pro, to record phone calls or long form or short form recordings so you can edit them quickly and easily, Vox Pro is the way to go. We're going to hear from Vox Pro. We'll be right back.
Hey, what's happening? St. John here, coming to you from Command Central, and wanted to tell you about the absolute best partner you can have in radio. I'm talking about, boom, Wheatstone's Vox Pro. Now, a lot of folks have used previous versions of Vox Pro, all awesome, but I want to tell you about some of my favorite new features in 7. And for folks who've never used Vox Pro before, I'm about to tell you why it's an absolute game changer and essential for really fast-paced multi-element radio. Lots of different audio software out there. Why Vox Pro? Because it was designed for radio. It's the only software designed to do what we needed to do, which is record, edit, playback in real time. When I say lightning fast, I'm going to show you how fast you can edit stuff up in Vox Pro right now. So literally 3 clicks on the controller, mark left, mark right, everything that gets marked, you hit delete, it goes away. It's literally that fast. So we're going to take this part right here. Boom. From caller 9 to him saying, I'm ready.
Call 5, ready for that secret sound.
Boom. All of that stuff, Hit delete, it goes away. Here's your edit. You are tackling Secret Sound Caller 9.
I'm ready, St. John.
So one of the best features of version 7, this is awesome. It's effects macros, and you can literally put a chain of effects together so that instead of having to normalize a phone bit and then use noise reduction on it and EQ it and all that, you can literally build a chain. One button, this one's called call right here. I just click that. All of those processes happen instantaneously. Literally saves 80% of your editing and cleanup time. Final thing that I love about Vox Pro, and there's so much more to get into, but one of my favorite things, you can load it on a laptop. I've literally done my show from a hotel room in Armenia to the conference room at, this was fun, jury duty. Great thing, no one could tell the difference. Vox Pro makes it totally easy. Telling you, if you're looking for the best on-air partner, call my friends at Wheatstone, ask them about Vox Pro, and you will be glad you did.
And actually, if you want one delivered, call Broadcasters General Store because they'll take your order and they'll ship you one. At bgs.cc is the website, bgs.cc, or you can call them at 352-622-7700. That's 352-622-7700. A lot of times they answer on the first ring. Isn't that amazing? They did today. I called one ring. I got you right, just like that. Just like that. All right. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack. We're about to wrap up This Week in Radio Tech. Chris Tarr has been with us as our co-host. Chris, may I go to you first, Chris, for a tip of the week? Oh,
you may. A new toy that I've got. Just got it from Amazon. It's a little DSP radio, and it's just a little handheld guy. And if you notice, let's see if I can get it in here without getting reflections. It's got RDS in it.
Oh.
So there's one of my stations and I can see the RDS going. And it does AM and FM, and it's got, headphone jacks, and it's got antenna jacks on it. Great little software radio with a lot of features on it, and $114 on Amazon. It's a great little radio. So another thing to add to the toolbox when I'm out working on things like RDS generators and things like that, I can see exactly what it's doing.
Chris, you have an assignment? Send me a link, and I'll put it in the show notes.
Will do.
All right. Look forward to it. I can't publish the show until I get that from you now. So that's cool. And that it shows RDS. Do you know if it shows all RDS, like the Radio Text Plus? All the little elements? Or
that I don't know. I haven't seen any stations with it, so I couldn't tell you.
Oh, well. I'll get one for Larry Fuss because he's really into that. Wants to make sure all our stations have every bit of characters that can be possibly transmitted. We're transmitting. All right. So Mike Kernen, it's your turn to deliver us a tip of the week. What do you have to say, sir?
Well, I think you wanted the tip to be something about moving the transmitter. And I think the best tip I could give anybody is to get a pair of those furniture moving jacks. Those things made this job so much easier, from lifting it, twisting it around, and rolling it down the sidewalk, which I didn't make the point before, but I think it's a good point to make now. We could not get a truck within 300 feet of the transmitter room. That's how far we had to park in the parking lot and get this thing. And they're great for rolling inside the building. Or even outside, and they have hydraulic bottle jacks in them which jack the transmitter up, and they hold it nice and steady. We did not put a scratch on any one of the panels of that thing. And the other tip is, yes, take the doors off. Don't try to move this thing with an expensive touch screen. You can carry the doors yourself, or two people. Don't put the doors at risk. Those things are beautifully painted, and it has a touch screen built in, and they stick out. It gives you some more room. And if I have a second, the last thing is the MPX over AES. I love that Max Connect box. I was really excited to see that. I do use that. I've got both my NV and my GV connected that way, and I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, and that is cool. That it's so clean when you do MPX over, and you said AES, so that's the AES 192 standard.
Correct.
So
Yes.
yeah. That obviously, that composite signal, whether if you're doing it in analog, there's going to be a noise floor no matter what you do. That box from Max Connect makes that really low. When you do it over an AES EBU connection, oh my gosh, the noise floor can literally be something like 138 or 136 dB down. I mean, just crazy low. So that's where you want to be if you can do that. Good deal. Great advice all the way around. And I appreciate that so much. All right. Mike Kernen has been our guest today. He's the chief engineer at Crawford Broadcasting in Detroit. And so, Mike,
thanks for
great to
having
see
me
you
today.
again. Yeah. Thanks for saying yes and being our guest. Chris Tarr is our
My
co-host.
pleasure.
Chris, it's so good to see you back. Hope to see you next week too, man, if you can. All right.
You got it.
All right, man. Well, thanks to Suncast, our producer, with his hands on the controls, a steady hand to give us a good show. Thank you, Suncast, very much. We'll see you next week on This Week in Radio Tech.